Now, where we're going to go next is, and I like what she said here, given where we're going to go next, is that, so we're going to go to 10 ways to amp up your conviction. But to reiterate what Abraham Hicks just said, you're not doing this to make something happen because it's done, it's done, it's done, right? You just want to convince yourself that it's done, right? That's really why I'm sharing these different ways, to get to the place where you truly are convinced that it is done, so that your state of conviction that it is done causes the done state of your desired reality to materialize in your 3D reality, right? So let's talk about a few of those ways here, and I'll go back and forth, I'm sure, but let's go. Oop. Okay. Contemplate, recognize and accept who you are. That's what we talked about before. You're not a body, you are a source. In A Course in Miracles, they had you contemplate for, I think, 20, 25, maybe 30 days. I think it was somewhere between 25 and 20 and 25 days. One thing, I am not a body. I am, let me come back here. Course in Miracles had you contemplate one thing. I am not a body. I am free. I am just a source. I am just as God created me. Now, when I was doing it, I altered it and I said, I am not a body. I am free. I am just a source, period. Right? Because the Course in Miracles lingo is, I am not a body. I am free. I am just as God created me. And I'm like, I'm just as God, period. Right? So I changed it to, I am not a body. I am free. I'm just a source. And I stop there and I go, I'm just as source. I'm just as source. I am source. I am God. I am source. I am source. And that became a really deep contemplation. Because if you're really heavily identified with the physical body that you are, conviction is really hard to come by, because you're like, well, how could I think it's done if I personally, my little body and me, haven't done these set of things yet, right? But when you know that you're a source and you know that it is done, you're not thinking about stuff in the way. You're like, no, it's done because I am source, right? Okay, continuing on. Number 2, contemplate and accept that all realities exist now in this present moment. We've already talked about that, but I would say give yourself, if this is a new concept for you, like what, all realities exist now in this moment, then go, well, let me contemplate what is that? Like, how can I come into the embrace of that? How can I come into the knowing of that? How can I come into the full embodiment of that truth? What does that mean for my life if that's true? That's how I contemplate things, right? Anytime I had a new contemplation that was new for me, I would go, what does that mean for my life if that's true? And I would just sit on my deck and just stare at the clouds and go, what does that mean for my life? Wait, if that's true, what does that mean for me and my life? What? And that's how I would sort of integrate things and make it feel really real, is I would just go, what does that mean for me? What does that mean for me? Wait, so it means I can access everything now. Like, it's truly already done. And I would just deep dive into what it means for my life. Contemplate that you access different realities with your current inner state versus I got to manipulate all of these external things in order to get what I want. No, you manipulate you inwardly to get what you want, right? And that whole get what you want is just very lack-based. So I would shift your language around that too, is I can alter my inner state to access what's already done. Let me come back. I need you to see my face. I can alter my inner state to access what's already done. Just that statement alone changes your way of seeing the world. I can alter my inner state to access what's already done, to materialize what's already done. I can alter my inner state to materialize what's already done. That saves you from thinking about all the work that needs to happen, all the time that needs to pass, all the degrees I need to have, all the, it's like, no, I can alter my inner state to access what's already done. Back to the list. Move into the scene. We talked about that already. Moving into the scene of your done state just before you're falling asleep. Now, toward the end of August, maybe early September, I started being attracted to, forgetting his name now, Neville Goddard. I followed his teachings way back in my heavy manifesting days and law of attraction days. But for some reason, I came back to reading some of his material, and him and other people believe that when you're in that hypnagogic state, you have more access to your ability to create. And so move into your done scene, like create a scene that's so visceral and you're in the middle of it. You're the actor in the movie, right? And you're feeling all the aspects of it. Who are you talking to? How's the wind blowing? What temperature is it outside? Are the trees blowing? Are you talking to somebody? What are they saying? Like all of those things to create a scene just before falling asleep in that hypnagogic state. His teaching is, let me go back to, his teaching is very much, that's how you do it. I'm like, look, I could do that all day long and it'll be fine. I don't have to do it when I'm falling asleep. I don't have to. There's some things about his work that I absolutely love, some of which I'll share in a minute. And some I feel like that's a lot of efforting, but I'll share a few more about that in a second. But that's one thing you can play with anyway, is move into a scene of your done state, just your done movie, right? Your done movie, to move into that state just before falling asleep. Okay. Sometimes it requires practicing the done state repeatedly, so reprogramming takes place, and then it becomes your new normal, your new way of perceiving, expecting, and believing. And this is where process and practice is incredibly beneficial. I know I often say I don't do a whole lot of processes, yet if it calls me, I go, right? If a process calls me, I go. If your natural state of being is in the not done side of things, then, and that's where you spend most of your day, then a practice or a process that you can put on repeat several times a day, very quick, something very quick. I'm not talking about a 30-minute meditation, something very quick that you can bring back to your mind as a remembrance, right? That can begin to reprogram your way of thinking, your way of being, what you believe to be true, such that when that mind pops in and goes, yeah, but how do you know you're going to get that money? How you know you're going to get that job? How you know you're going to get that client? How you know clients are even going to show up? When your mind starts saying that, there's something you can go to as a reprogramming and a pivoting, right? That's where practice and process really shines, is allowing us to reprogram our state, our natural state of being. Okay. And again, if you have questions, feel free to put it in the Q&A, but I'll keep going. All right. This is big for me. Read, view, listen to stories of transformation and what's possible. One of the things that I do every so often, especially if I have some kind of ailment in my body, is I go to Joe Dispenza's YouTube channel and I start watching the transformation stories. Now, I don't like watching the full story, and here's why. In the beginning of all of those videos is the drama and the trauma, and I don't want to be sucked into everybody's drama and trauma. So I typically skip, depending on the length of the video, I skip about 1/3 of the way, because I know about then is when they're done talking about the drama and the trauma. And then they're talking about how the healing took place or how the transformation took place in their lives. because I want to fill my mind with possibility. I want to fill my mind with what's possible. So whatever is true, wherever in your life you're feeling, stagnant or stuck. Nobody's ever stuck, by the way. That's just a perception. Wherever you're feeling stagnant or stuck, if you're living in that perception of things, look for stories of success stories and transformational stories and how other people are doing it, so that you're constantly feeding yourself and your mind what's possible. Okay, instead of just sitting in your world going, this is so hard, I've been struggling with this for 10 years. No, go out there and find stories of what's possible. It's just so beautiful to be able to do that. Okay, take seemingly small life event and practice the done state to observe what happens. That's a really cool thing to do. And I don't know what would feel small to you. From a universal perspective, as Abraham Hicks often says, there's no difference between manifesting a mansion and manifesting, what did she say? Manifesting a mansion and manifesting a button. I think she said, there's no difference between manifesting a button and manifesting a mansion. From the universal perspective, it doesn't matter, right? But sometimes to help ourselves along, we can take something and go, what if I assume the done state with this? Just a little thing. I'm just going to assume the done state for the next week or the next 2 weeks or whatever. Or I'm just going to be in this done state and just never reverse. I'm going to make not a commitment. I don't like that word. I am going to make a firm decision with this one particular thing that I am going to get real clear on what the done state is. And then I'll rehearse that done state in my mind and imagination every single day and see what happens in my reality as a result of that. That's a really great thing to play with. Okay. Back to the screen. Number 8, and you'll hear me talk about this in my own story in a moment, but chill out. Sometimes, as much as I love practice and process for reprogramming, it can get burdensome. It can feel like you're trying to make something happen. If it's already done, you don't need to do anything, but it helps to be engaged in a repetitive practice, just especially if you don't live in the done state more often than not, right? But it can get to the place where you feel like you're forcing it, or you feel like you're trying to make something happen, or you get focus fatigue. It's like, I've been focused on this thing, this money thing, this money thing, this money thing, this money thing, or this healing thing, this healing thing, this healing thing, this healing thing, this healing thing. And it's like, that's all you think about all day long, right? I'm gonna get into the done state. I'm gonna get into the done state. I'm gonna get into and after a while, it just feels like work. It just feels like, I'm exhausted trying to do that over and over. And when it feels like that, go to chill. Just go to chill. Watch a next Netflix movie, or for me, I scroll through YouTube cat videos or animal videos on the Dodo, or the Dodo YouTube channel. Or another channel I love is the Asher House. He's one of the places that I support. There's another one. I love animal stuff. There's another one called the Gentle Barn, another place that I'm philanthropically focused. The Gentle Barn in North Carolina, I believe, but they have a YouTube channel and it's beautiful. It's beautiful. So all those channels for animal stuff, I just go to watch uplifting, funny animal stuff, So chill out, positive distraction. Oh, hang on, let me get positive distraction, forget about it. Just forget. Forget you're sick. Forget you have this part of your body to heal. Just forget about it. Go do something else. What is fun for you? Just take your mind off that for a while and just go find something else to do. Go do something fun, refresh, return to the done state if or when it truly calls you and truly resonates. Otherwise, you'll be in process burnout, which a lot of people get to. They're like, I'm so sick of trying to do this process, and it can happen. Okay, just a couple more, really straightforward. Of course, meditation, I am not a heavy meditator. I go to meditation whenever it calls me, But it's a really, I mean, all of you who meditate, which is probably most of you, you know that alters your state. You know that puts you in a state of peace. You know that sort of lessens the reactionary response that you may have to life. If you meditate, I remember back when I was meditating 2 hours a day, it was like 1 hour in the morning and 1 hour in the afternoon. And then at one time it was like 90 minutes in the morning and 90 minutes in the afternoon. This was way, way back before I was even doing spiritual videos on YouTube. But I remember suddenly noticing something just happened and I couldn't react. How come I didn't react to that? It sort of diffuses your reactionary response to life as well. But meditation has so many benefits. I don't have to go into it here. That's preaching to the choir. You guys already do that. And the last one that I'll mention is surrender. Simply rest in pure awareness. I'll talk about that in a second. Simply rest in your true self. Surrender is not giving up. As we know, surrender is saying, I'm just going to be at peace with what is. You give up the resistance. There's so many stories all over where I'm trying to have a baby, I'm trying to have a baby, I'm trying to have a baby. I give up. Fuck it. I don't want, I'll adopt. Suddenly the person becomes pregnant. Okay, I'm trying to heal myself. I'm trying to heal myself. I'm trying to heal myself. You know what? I'm just going to surrender. Suddenly you start to feel better, right? But unfortunately we go back to the, if we can only stay in that state of surrender and knowing that all is well, but sometimes we start wondering, is it going to last? And you hear some of that in my story in a second. Okay. What comes next? Ooh, this is good. Okay, so let's go to the next slide here. I want to talk a little bit about flipping the script. And this is going to hopefully give a few of you, I'm sort of looking at choosing your own reality from a different angle, but it's flipping the script on what we typically say and how you can flip it to what's actually true, okay? So here's the first one. We feel like we're lacking financially because we have limited money in the bank. But here's where we flip the script. We have limited money in the bank because we feel we're lacking financially. Hello, somebody. I'm gonna let that sink in. Some of y'all didn't get that. Just look at the screen. Some of y'all didn't get it. We just flipped the script. We feel we're lacking financially because we have limited money in the bank. But, however, we have limited money in the bank because we feel we're lacking financially. What does that mean? If I feel like I'm lacking financially, then that's my state. If that's coming back to you here. If I feel like I'm lacking financially, that's my state. If that is my state, that's what I'm reaching for on the buffet, is I am lacking financially and it continues to materialize in my reality, right? Here's another one. We feel like we're lacking health and vitality because our bodies are ailing. However, our bodies are ailing because we feel like we're lacking health and vitality. Some of y'all are like, yeah, but I'm in pain. How can I feel health and vitality when I'm in pain? I'm gonna share my story in a second. Many years ago, I watched a series of videos on YouTube. I do not recommend it. You'll be bawling your eyes out. It's still there, but I don't recommend it. I watched a series of videos on YouTube called My Last Days, where they pretty much went and interviewed a whole bunch of people who knew they were most likely dying. And it was interesting to watch. There's one woman in particular that comes to mind. Her name was Claire Wineland. Claire Wineland, I believe she has her own YouTube channel. She's now deceased. But ever since she was 7 years old, she wanted to put a message out into the world. I'm not only this cystic fibrosis. That's not who I am. That's not my identity. And she went on to do talks on stages across the world with her cystic fibrosis equipment, all of the breathing apparatus and all of that, while doing a talk on stage. She had a lung transplant, and shortly after the lung transplant, she passed. But not before affecting millions of lives while she couldn't breathe properly. I remember watching some of her videos where she would be like, and then she'll go hairball. She'd be making fun of the fact that her lungs are constantly congested. She would clear her lungs by coughing, and then she'd go, "Oh, sorry, hairball." That was her attitude in the middle of clearing a congested lung that's congested from the day she was born, right? And standing on stage with breathing apparatus to help her lungs function properly while sharing the word. Like her thing was, I want to show, whenever you hear about cystic fibrosis, it's always about donate to help these kids. She's like, that's not what I want it to be in the world. I want the world to see that I can go to the beach, I can talk on stage, I can do all these different things in the middle of having a dire diagnosis, So going back to that bullet on the screen here, we feel like our bodies are lacking health and vitality because our bodies are ailing. However, our bodies are ailing because our state is, I am lacking health and vitality. If that's your state, if that's your belief, if that's your assumption, that's what you're pulling off the buffet. Okay? Next. We feel lonely because we don't have a partner. However, we don't have a partner because we feel lonely. If your feeling is loneliness, if your feeling is I lack a partner, that's your state. If lack of partner is your state, that's what you're pulling off the buffet and causing it to materialize in your 3D reality. Now, if you shift and you go, I'm gonna have the most fun now that I'm single. How can I live my best life being single? How can I fall in love with myself such that anyone that comes into my reality is 100% optional? Now, what is your state? I am love. I am love. I am complete all by myself. I am love, and I am 100% complete all by myself. When you're there, if you have a genuine desire, that what will materialize is a person that matches that. Now, you can also go into the done state of I have a partner. But the reason I didn't go there first is because people, come back here. The reason I didn't go there first is because if you're coming from a state of I lack a partner and you're like, ooh, now I know how to get into the done state. I'm with a partner. They're hugging me. They're right? It'll manifest. But if it was manifested on a ground that's shaky, meaning I don't feel complete yet, I feel complete only when I have a partner, that partner is not going to last. They're going to go away. Why? Because your state is, I only feel complete when I have a partner. I'm lacking if they're not there. So you're carrying that state of lack into the relationship. It must end. They're going to go away. Why? Because you're still harboring, I cannot be alone. And if you're harboring, I cannot be alone, that's what you're pulling off the buffet is alone. And then the lover that you manifested by thinking about them coming into your reality suddenly comes in and you're like, yay! And they're like, ooh, go out. Why? Because your predominant state is, I can't be alone. I'm not enough if I'm alone. I can't feel love if I don't have a lover. If all that's going on and you're manifesting a lover, it can't last because it's like building a house on sand. You're not manifesting and building that relationship on solid ground, I should say. Okay. More flipping the script. We feel unworthy because other people make us feel unworthy. However, other people make us feel that way because we feel unworthy. So if you're in a place where you feel unworthy, well, that's what you're pulling off the buffet. Unworthy. I'm unworthy is what your state is. And if that's your state, then that is what has to materialize through other people and through many other forms in your reality. But you can shift that. How could you be source and not be worthy? Consider that. How could you be God and not be worthy? It's such a falsity. How could you be source and not be worthy? Okay, almost done. We feel someone is a jerk because of what they're doing, but that version of the person is materializing because we feel, we assume, and we believe that they're a jerk. And we talked about that earlier, so I won't harp on that now, but there's many versions of anybody in your reality. And the version of them that materializes is the one that you choose to assume is true, the one that you choose to focus upon, the one that you choose to believe, and one that you feel the most. Think about anybody in your family that you have an assumption about, and that assumption is quite negative. Well, they have to continue showing up that way. That's your assumption. That's your belief. That's your expectation about who they are. And if that's your expectation about who they are, that's the version of them that you're pulling into materialization in your reality. And I've personally experienced shifting in that way. So a few stories. One way to shift to the done state, not the only way, I'm sure there's countless ways. 3 stories that inspired my own personal story, and then I'll share my own personal story with you. So as I mentioned earlier, go back here, hang on. As I mentioned earlier, toward the end of August, early September or so, I started reading Neville Goddard's work again. He can be a little process heavy, and it can get a little efforty in terms of you have to do it this way in order to blah, 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 even though he truly believes everything is done. And he truly believes that our imaginary state, he calls it imaginary action, I think he calls it. I can't remember now. Is how we access the done state. Is we conjure it up in our minds and we access it, which is true. Whatever we perceive becomes our reality. Whatever you're perceiving, whether done or not done, becomes your reality, right? But one of the things that I was reading of his, which inspired my own story, is the 3 stories. So Neville Goddard has a process, a technique. He only has about 3, I think, but he has a process called revision. Now I can sit here and try to describe to you what revision is, but I think it's way more powerful to read the stories. So I'm gonna do that. So here are the 3 stories of revision and why it influenced my personal experience. Okay. Neville Goddard, by the way, was around in the 1930s, 1940s. I think he passed in the 1970s. So these are where parts of talks that he's done or books that he's written. So this one is from 1961. Neville says, "The buried past usually lies deeper than our surface mind can plumb. But fortunately for this lady, she remembered and proved that the made past can also be unmade through revision." So what I'm stepping into right now is you can change your past simply by revising it. Some of y'all are not with me. Some of y'all love your past. You love bringing it up. Well, no, because my past made me who I am today. Okay, that's fine, but you can change it anytime you want. Because we don't live in a fixed reality. We do not live in a fixed reality. Where does the past exist? If I were to ask you that, where does the past exist right now? The only place it exists is where? It does not exist anywhere else. The past only exists in our minds. It's a memory. That's it. It's a memory. That's it. That's it. That's it. So if it's just a memory, can memories be changed? Hell yes, they can. And so I've always embraced that you could change your past. I've always embraced that the past is just a malleable memory that can be changed in any way. Now, if you change your past, you change your current life. Here are the stories. Okay, but fortunately for this lady, she remembered and proved that the made, he has it in quotes, past, can also be unmade through revision. Here's the lady. This is the lady speaking now. For 39 years, I had suffered from a weak back. The pain would increase and decrease, but would never leave completely. The condition had progressed to the point where I used medical treatment almost constantly. The doctor would put the hip right for the moment, but the pain simply would not go away. One night, I heard you speak of revision and wondered to myself if a condition of almost 40 years could be revised. I had remembered that at the age of 3 or 4 years old, I had fallen backward from a very high swing and had been quite ill at the time because of a serious hip injury. From that time on, I had never been completely free from the pain and had paid many a dollar to alleviate the condition to no avail. This year, during the month of August, the pain had become more intense. And one night I decided to test myself and attempt to revise that ancient accident. Hello, somebody. She about to change the past. Attempt to revise that ancient accident, which had been the cause of so much distress and pain and costly medical fees most of my adult life. Many nights passed before I could feel myself back to the stage of childhood play, but I succeeded. So what that means is the memory was so far in the past for her that it was hard to, and I'll talk about that when I share my story. It was hard to conjure it up because she had lived in pain for so long and she had lived this life of pain for so long. It was hard to go all the way back to when she was 3 or 4 and be in the scene where she's on the swing. Get that, y'all. Put herself in the scene where she's on that swing. She put herself in the scene where she's on that swing swinging. And here's how she revised it. One night, I actually felt myself on that swing, feeling the rush of wind, and as the swing rose high. See how she put the wind, like all these pieces of the scene. It makes it more real. The rush of the wind as the swing rose higher and higher. As the swing slowed down, I had jumped forward, landing solidly. She changed the script, y'all. She didn't fall backward. She didn't hurt her hip. This is what she changed. In her imaginary mind, right? Because that's the only place the past exists. As the swing slowed down, I jumped forward, landing solidly and easily on my feet. In the imaginal action, I ran to my mother and insisted that she come watch what I could do. I did it again, jumping down from the swing and landing safely on my 2 feet. That's the revision. I repeated this imaginal act over and over until I fell asleep in the doing of it. That's kind of what Neville recommends. It's like conjure up the scene, repeat that scene, in a short scene, not like a long movie, right? A short scene over and over and over and go to sleep with it. She continues, within 2 days, there's no such thing as the past, people. We can change the fucking past. Within 2 days, the pain in my back and hip began to recede, and within 2 months, pain no longer existed for me. Y'all don't understand how fucking powerful we are. A condition that had plagued me for more than 39 years, that had cost a small fortune in an attempted cure, was no more. I'm gonna let that sink in. I'm gonna let that sink in. Anybody out there in pain? Anybody got an ailment that they can revise? Hello. All right, story number 2 from 1968. A guy in one of Neville's lectures said, I wonder if those who attend your meetings teach their children the art of revision. I taught it to my son when he was 5. At the time, he had quite a serious accident and was bleeding profusely. As I washed the wound, I told my son to go over the entire event, but to omit the scene where he was hurt. I explained that if he omitted that particular scene, he would have nothing to cry about. He did as I asked and immediately stopped crying. I continued to wash the wound. As the bleeding stopped, I applied a loose bandage and my son returned to his play. Since that day, whenever my son, who is now 7, gets hurt, He revises the scene. Come on, somebody. He revises the scene and omits the part where he gets hurt. But this guy's story didn't stop there. Where's Ellie? Listen up, Ellie. I'm about to come for you. While my wife was playing tennis, she received a severe break to her ankle. We both revised the incident. And although she had to stop playing tennis for a while, the ankle healed rapidly with only the aid of an ACE bandage, much to the amazement of the doctor. Neville says, if you have children, teach them the art of revision early so that the idea will become a habit, just like it has in this gentleman's home. And a lot of times with the revision, like this woman who had the ankle heal rapidly, in the scene could be the doctor's amazement, right? She could be sitting there imagining, and I went to my doctor and he said, oh my God, this healed way faster than, like all of that could be part of the imaginary scene that she went into and had it become visceral. Okay. Okay. Last one before I get to my story. Y'all ready? No, y'all not ready. Are y'all awake? Somebody press an emoji. Y'all awake? Y'all awake? Hello? Is this thing on? Okay, good. All right. Thank you. just checking. If you got questions, put it in the Q&A. Last story. Better than the first two. You ready? This was from 1959, story from one of Neville Goddard's lectures. I know a lady who burned her hand and then unburned it. She poured boiling water on her hand. That's by accident, trying to pour the water in a cup of tea. She laid on the couch and tried to undo mentally what had been done. It was difficult because of the pain, but she kept trying. She redid the scene and poured the boiling water on the tea instead of her hand and brewed it. And then she drank the tea. That was her revision of the scene. She did it over and over and over in her mind. And finally, in the act of thus making the tea, she fell asleep. So she reenacted that. I poured the tea, it went in the cup, didn't go in my hand. Poured the tea, it went in the cup. Poured the tea, it went in the cup. She wrote, you would have thought, she did it over and over, and finally, in the act of thus making the tea, she fell asleep. When she awoke, some hours later, there was no trace of the burn. Come on now. Y'all ready for your power? Y'all ready for your power? Some hours later, there was no trace of the burn. She wrote, you would have thought I should go right to the hospital, but now there is not even a sign of the burn. Woo! Now you know why that influenced my story. Let's get to my story. I'm going to speak about this story from the perspective of timeline 1, that I'm no longer living. I've left that timeline, and timeline 2. I will not be entertaining any questions about timeline 1 because I do not want to activate that in my reality. But I will tell you enough so that you understand what I revised to experience healing. So timeline 1, okay, happened before the incident took place, okay? My son met a girl last year and had been long distance dating her. She lives in Oregon. Long distance dating her all year this year, and visited her, I think 2 or 3 times this year. And then when he came back from visiting her, I believe in August it was, he announced, Mom, he's 22, I'm moving to Oregon. That's what kids are supposed to do, not a big deal. I'm a loner. I love living alone. Love it, love it, love it. But then all of a sudden, this little voice, which I shouldn't have paid attention to, came up and said, Now you're living in the country all by yourself. What if something happens to you? And that fear, because I gave it attention, grew, right? Not only that, I'm like pondering this fear, like, it's true. I had not thought of that. I moved out here. I'm living out here all by myself. My sister lives an hour from me. Well, that's a whole hour from me, right? I was like, oh, well, there's this one neighbor. I have her number. I'll be okay because I have her number. Here's how massively we create our reality, right? Before this incident took place, my neighbor was driving by as I was walking Milo, as this fear is active in my vibration, right? And I love living alone. I truly love living alone. This fear, though, you love living alone, but what if something happens to you out there? It's not safe. What if you fall? What if you hurt yourself? Abraham Hicks says, if you have something active in your vibration and you're not listening, it's just going to get bigger, which it did. I'm walking Milo and my neighbor stops and she said, hey, Allison, the one neighbor, I have her phone number, she have mine. Now, I don't give neighbors my phone number. I don't know any of my neighbors except for that one. The only reason she has my number is because her dog attacked my dog and I put a note in her mailbox saying, dude, your dog came on my property and attacked my dog. Here's my phone number because my dog is bleeding, you know? So she called me and that's how we had each other's phone numbers. Literally a week before I broke a bone, my neighbor's driving by and she stops. She winds down her window and she said, hey, I just want to let you know I'm moving out. If the fear is not taken care of, it will manifest into your worst nightmare. Trust. And I remember visiting with my sister, telling her, oh, he's moving out. He's moving to Oregon, blah, blah, blah. And then I sat there chatting with my sister and I'm like, my only worry is I live out there all by my damn self. I could be dead for days and nobody would know it. Why is that coming up? Why is that coming up? And I'm not catching it. I'm like going with the fear. It's like I'm subscribed to the damn fear. Even though I love living alone. I love living alone. There are times when I'm in my house now where I'm like, this feels so good. Yet, right? Happening, right? And I'm not addressing the fear. I am just going with the fear. I need to address this issue. This is an issue. I'm out here all by myself. I'm not safe. What if I fall? And I remember telling my son, I was like, what if I'm up on a ladder and I fall and I break something? What? That's my fear going, even though I love living alone. All right. 2 weeks before my son moves out. 2 weeks, okay? He has job interviews lined up in Oregon. He ain't staying. 2 weeks before he moves out, he has this giant suitcase, super heavy suitcase, right? And he has it in front of the patio door. And I'm walking to the patio door to lock it. And he has this very heavy suitcase in front of it. And as I reach to the patio door, I put my left foot and then I'm about to bring my right foot, and my right foot went straight into the suitcase wheel. And that was a very heavy suitcase. And it didn't hurt. So I locked the door, but I knew I stubbed my toe. And I looked down and went, shit, my toe. We ain't even gonna describe what that looked like. Anyway, that's the end of timeline 1. Don't ask any questions. I'm not going back there. So now I have a broken toe, prognosis 4 to 6 weeks for healing. Can't walk. I cannot step on that foot. I cannot drive. Cannot get around the house. My son bought me a pair of crutches. I didn't get a wheelchair, but I used an office chair on wheels. Thank God for hardwood floors, because that's how I wheeled around the house on a second, not this office chair, but another office chair that I had. And I'm on crutches. However, as soon as it happened, I'm like, shit, that's what was playing out in my mind. It became a fucking reality. Shit. If you don't address it, It'll just get bigger, as Abraham Hicks said. Anyway, event complete. Now I'm living with a broken toe on crutches, cannot walk. I will say that the first day, like within hours of it happening, I'm like, Allison, start counting your blessings. You don't have to go anywhere. You can order food till the sun goes down. You have everything you need. Life is good. You do not have a job to report to. You do not have a boss to report to. I started bringing up all of the things that I can be grateful for. I have a nice big king size bed I can lay in, prop my feet up. If I'm sitting, I could prop my feet up. If I could wheel around in this chair, and I was literally using the crutches like ski poles. That's how I was moving around in the chair on wheels. I was like, right. But I did go into a place of gratitude a lot. When my sister called and said, how are you doing? I'd be like, I'm staying positive because I know my positive vibe is what's going to happen. Now, 2 weeks went by with ebb and flow. This is why I wanted to share the imperfection of it all. 2 weeks went by. I was positive, and I started to feel like the healing was happening at a rapid pace. And then I'd focus on something else. I became a student of just how directly my vibration was affecting my reality. When I went into feeling sorry for myself, pain. When I went into, I had the Joe Dispenza thing going on too, where I was like, look, Joe Dispenza laid in a hospital bed with a broken back and healed his whole back with his mind. I for damn sure could heal this broken bone with my mind, right? And so that was playing in my head. I started listening to You Are the Placebo and everything feeding my mind. You could heal this thing. You could heal this thing. But there was ebb and flow, and I was watching it. I was literally watching it. I had a relational thing come up where, you ever had a relational thing where you just know you're right? And you just so want to hold on to the fact that you're right. You want to hold on to the fact that you're right until the other person knows they're wrong and you're right. I had one of those things playing out in the first 2 weeks. And so I was going back and forth vibrationally. I would think about this relational thing and I'd be like, shoot, pain. I would release it, and all of a sudden, whew, the pains lighten up. And then I'd go into some other contrast and pain. And then I would release my focus from that contrast and the pain would lighten up. But I still couldn't walk. I still was on crutches, right? That correlation, man, was so powerful for me to watch the direct correlation between how I was feeling about myself, about life, about other people. Holding judgments about other people brought me pain. Right? Thinking about other people in a negative way brought me pain. Now you could say, well, you were injured, Allison, so of course you have pain. No, honey, trust and believe. When I was judgmental about someone, the pain increased. When I held someone in a negative light, the pain increased. When I released them and put them in a state of love, the pain subsided. When I felt sorry for myself, oh, woe is me, see, it happened to me. I'm out here all by myself, especially when my son left. I'm still on crutches. I'm still in this chair, right? Because on crutches, you cannot hold anything. So you have to be in a chair to hold a plate or to, fix yourself something. I could be on my left foot, but I couldn't hold things. So I had to be in that chair to move around, Anyway, my son leaves, and one of the things that I did was feel sorry for myself. Well, God, look at me all here by myself. Yeah. And the minute I went there and my vibe got heavy and I felt sorry for myself, the pain started throbbing. Okay. And then when I released that, I'm like, Allison, focus on what you're grateful for. What are you grateful for right now? Can you not prop your leg up right now? Is there not meals in the fridge? Can you not order food whenever you want? Everything's fine. You're fine. You are fine. When I went there, the pain subsided a lot. It wasn't perfectly gone, but it subsided quite a bit. So any of you who are ailing in any way, shape, or form, pain, whatever ease you're playing out, is there people you're holding judgments against? Is there people you're holding negative things about? Because that could be when you are angry at somebody, holding someone with judgment, feeling like you're right, they're wrong. Where is all of that energy being held? In your body. Are you sending them that energy as well? Yes, but you are holding it in your body. Right? So if you're trying to heal something in your body and you're thinking about people you cannot forgive, you're mad at, there's something there that Course in Miracles calls it attacking yourself. If you're angry, you're attacking yourself, because who's holding the anger? If you're sitting in a place of resentment, you're attacking yourself, because who's holding that? You're attacking your own body. You're attacking your own vibration. So just keep that in mind. Okay, so timeline 2, we're shifting to the healing now. On day 16, I'm in pain. Well, one of the things that I did was I rewrapped the bandage that was on my toe. When you break your toe, they just kind of buddy tape it to the next toe. And I unwrapped it and wrapped it back, and I wrapped it too tight. And I didn't realize it until I had slept through the night, woke up the next day. Pain. Pain. The pain. And I looked at that and I was like, that was one of the moments when I was heavy into they're right, they're wrong, and I'm right. I was mulling over that story over and over and over. What am I doing? Self-attack. Therefore, I did something that caused me even more pain, right? And I couldn't step on the foot. I couldn't stand on it. It was so painful. So I was in pain into week 2. And that's when I went back to reading these amazing Neville stories. And I remember sitting here in this chair. I don't know what I was doing in front of my computer, but I was in front of my computer and I was sitting in this chair and I was reading those stories. And I was like, revision, I'm gonna try that shit. And I'm gonna try it right now. I sat in this chair and I conjured up a revision of what happened. So in my mind's eye, I am in the scene in the movie, right? I'm in the scene where I'm walking toward the patio door to lock it. And I noticed the suitcase there and I stepped around it and I locked the door and I went on with my day. I walked Milo that day. I continued walking. Nothing ever happened. That was my revision. Replay, 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 replay. As the replay was happening, I was sitting right here. It became so visceral for me that I was sitting right here bawling. And the bawling felt like a release of something. But I was just bawling my eyes out, bawling my eyes out, bawling my eyes out. And in the bawling, I was sitting here going, thank you so much. Thank you. Oh my God, it never happened. Thank you. It never happened. Oh my God, thank you. It never happened. I literally felt like it never happened. And I was going, thank you, Neville Goddard. Thank you. I remember, like, right in that moment, for whatever reason, Rachel, I remember, I don't know if she's here. Rachel, I remembered your story of just waking up one day and the growth, the size of a 6-month baby in your stomach completely disappeared. For whatever reason, that landed in my mind. And I was like, thank you, Rachel, for sharing your story that these miraculous things are true. No, 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 no. I'm like, I don't know why that came up, but I was just thanking everybody who positively influenced my life and positively influenced what I was feeling in that moment. But it was visceral. I could feel the door lock. I could feel me moving my foot around the suitcase and placing it behind the suitcase as I reached for the second lock to lock the, like I felt it, I felt it, I felt it, I felt it. Like I was in it, I was in that scene, I was in that scene. And I replayed it over and over and over and over and over. And then my tears stopped. And I was like, what now? And Spirit said, gratitude. I was like, I'm grateful. I'm so grateful I'm walking again. I'm so grateful this is behind me. I'm so grateful. I went to who I was in the done state. I went to who I was in the done state and was filled with gratitude. I'm walking. I'm no longer using crutches. I'm walking. And then I got up and I grabbed my crutches. I grabbed my crutches and I just went ahead with life as per usual. And then that night, before I went to bed, I did the same thing again and drifted off to sleep doing the same thing. But the other thing that happened was the recognition that it's the fear that led to the incident, right? And the awareness of that caused me to revise the fear. And I sat in bed and I went through who I was before this took place. And I was like, I was looking, my son came home and said he was moving to Oregon. And I was so excited for him, and I was looking forward to how awesome it would be to be living in my space alone. I feel so safe and I feel so secure and I feel so confident. I feel so confident about how I'm living and how I'm thriving living alone. And I completely made up a whole new story. Why? Because I can change my past is why. Right? So I went into that revision as well as revising what happened, and fell asleep to both of those. Now, the imperfection here is the first time I did it, I've still picked up my crutches and my little wheelie chair and wheeled around the house. And then I went to bed and I woke up and I grabbed my crutches and my wheelie chair and wheeled around the house. Imperfection, right? I had even forgotten that I did that the night before. And then about halfway through the day, exactly around 20, because I remember when it happened when I sat here the first time revising, it was just after noon that day. And right around noon, when I was about to fix myself something to eat, I went to the bathroom to use the bathroom. And I went with my crutches and sat down, used the bathroom. And after I used the bathroom, suddenly the thought landed in my mind, don't use the crutches. Okay. So I get up. And listen, imperfection. I wasn't about to take a leap. I was not about to take a leap. So I'm taking these small baby steps. Now remember, the day before, I cannot step on that toe. I cannot step on the foot. I can't even step on the foot. And something landed within me and said, walk without the crutches. I picked up the crutches in both hands, just in case, okay? So again, this is how imperfectly I went through this. Just in case, I picked up the crutches, but I was holding it sort of sideways in my hand. I wasn't using it. And I was taking one baby step, next baby step, and I'm noticing the pain I had yesterday is not there. One baby step, next baby step, not there. One baby step, next baby step. This is the first time I'm walking. One baby step, next baby step. And then I made it to the living room and something said, put all your weight on that one foot. What? All my weight on that one foot? And for whatever reason, I didn't hesitate. I still had the two crutches. I wasn't using it. The crutches were like sort of, I think I had them both in one hand. I can't remember, but I wasn't using them. But they were backup, right? How imperfectly I'm going through this. Some doubt, okay? But I would say predominantly faith, tiny bit of doubt. And I obeyed the voice that said, put all your weight on that foot. And I lifted, now it's the toe on the right foot that broke. I lifted my left foot. I put all the weight on that foot. No pain. In that moment, I had the thought, wow, it feels like nothing ever happened. And as the minute that those words came out of my mouth, I collapsed bawling. Like I was bawling so hard. I was sobbing. I was crying. I was bawling. I went into gratitude. Thank you so much. Thank you, Spirit Guides, for being with me along this journey. Thank you for speaking to me and giving me the courage to do this. I was like bawling. I probably for 5 minutes straight, I was bawling my eyes out. And then I just walked to the patio door, the same patio door where it happened. I was just staring at the clouds. And I was like, unfucking believable. This is unfucking believable. And I walked to the door without the crutches. Walked to the door. Unfucking believable. And I continued walking. And at some point later in the evening, doubt crept in. And I was like, I don't think I should be putting so much weight on this for 2 weeks in. It's 4 to 6 weeks, like muddled up, right? It's muddling up now. It's muddling up, right? It's muddling up. And I go back to the crutches and I go back to the wheelie chair. I'm telling you the imperfection of how this played out. I wasn't in pain though. I was not in pain. I could still walk. I was not in pain, but I was doubting. Okay. I was like, what if I'm doing something bad to my foot? No. You know, maybe I put all my weight on there. Maybe that's going to do something bad. That came in, the doubt came in, right? But it didn't last for a very long time. And the next day I was off crutches and I never went back to the chair and I never went back to the crutches after that. The belief had solidified and I just went with the belief. However, I will say that as doubt crept in, there was like a slight discomfort that came back. But again, I was a student of watching how my vibration, my doubt, whatever, is literally impacting what I picked off the buffet. Literally impacting it. And then that night, like the day after, that night, I was like, well, let me go through the revision thing again. And I just didn't feel like it. I was like, it's done. What am I doing that again for, right? What I felt like doing, and this is the second, the second way in which you can shift to another reality. Some of you may understand this, some of you may not, okay? So I know that I'm about to, it's hard to even describe, but what happened in June was this new experience of just resting in pure consciousness and the truth of who I am as a divine, infinite, non-physical being. And so what can happen in my life now is I can pretty much retreat from the 3D and have a direct experience of my non-physical self. And when I have a direct experience of my non-physical self, the physical body essentially disappears. And when the physical body disappears, everything within it disappears. And you can actually heal yourself that way too. Because if everything within the physical body disappears, all of the ailments disappear with it. And if you know how to have a direct experience of your true nature, and for me, what it feels like, it's like this whole 3D world just completely disappears, and I can move into that awareness at will. And the whole 3D world starts to feel like it is the movie. And who I truly am is what's real. And as the movie begins to shrink, everything within it shrinks. And so when there was some doubt, and then I'd feel a little discomfort in my foot, I would move into this state of being my true self. And this entire reality, pain is not a reality, ailments are not a reality, physical body is not really a reality. What's really true, that's all temporary in this little simulation called life on planet Earth. It's all temporary. What's actually true is who I am as an eternal being. That is what is actually true. And I would go there, and the whole world disappears. My body disappears. I'm not a body anymore. And I'm in this sort of void, in this meditative state, where I'm truly feeling the infinite being that I am. I'm feeling my source self, my God self. Feeling is an inadequate word, but you got to use words to describe it. And I'm there in some other realm, not this 3D realm. And when I do return, there's nothing that I feel in my body. It's gone. And I realized after revisiting Joe Dispenza's work, that's what he's doing with people. He's using meditation to get them to their true state of being. And once they feel like they're not a body, they're not a mind, they're not any of this, they're free. And when you're free like that, that freedom has a ripple effect on your physical reality when you return. And that's a lot of what his meditations do, is getting people into that void, into that space where they don't feel like a body anymore. They don't feel like a physical person anymore. And when you're there, everything subsides. And when everything subsides, there's no resistance, there's no worry, there's no concern, there's no lack. And when you're there and you come back to this state, if you're willing, you can come back to your 3D state more grounded in the truth of who you are, and without the lack and without the resistance, right? If you do it enough times. And so that is another way to move into that done state without all of the, iterating that it is done. Just another way. And just to clarify for those of you who haven't played with changing your past, what's actually happening is you're not really changing your past, you're just getting on a timeline where that didn't happen, right? So there's a buffet item that said Allison broke her toe, and there's another item that said she didn't. And I just went from here to here because that's possible when you're able to change your past. You can heal with process, you can heal with surrender, you can heal with just being the pure consciousness that you are. There's no one way, right? I want to end with a quote from A Course in Miracles that I used to listen to every single day, and then I'll open it up for comments and questions. There is a place in me where there is perfect peace. There is a place in me where nothing is impossible. There's a place in me where the strength of Source abides. I am sustained by the Source energy within me. It brings eternal calm. The Source within me will lift me out of every challenge and raise me high above the perceived dangers of this world into a climate of perfect peace and safety. It will transport me into a state of mind in which nothing can threaten, nothing can disturb, and nothing can intrude upon the eternal calm of the Source within. I have learned to listen to the voice of the Source within me all day long. The part of me that listens is calm, always at rest and wholly certain. Everything else is just a wild illusion. I identify with the part of my mind where stillness reigns forever. I listen to that every single day. Like I audio recorded myself reading that and listened to it every single day for many weeks. And it was just such a soothing experience for me. I'm going to open up the chat now. And I'm going to check for questions. Thank you everyone for joining us for part 2 of this live stream. It was uploaded in 2 parts. We were together for, I think, close to 3 hours. The Q&A portion was not included here, but if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me at allisonphillips.tv/ask. I'd be happy to interact with you there. And as always, take what resonates, discard what does not. Please always listen to your inner guidance above all else. And I'll see you soon. Bye.